Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Have a Seat with Chris Hansen. I'm Chris Hansen, and I appreciate you joining us once again as we continue our investigation into the YouTube psycho rat in Washington State, Onision. As the investigation continues, there are some new developments here this evening. One, the arguments continue online between Onision, some of his victims. A new video has apparently come out or will come out very soon that he has done with Keemstar. And these allegations that he throws out there against his victims, me and other people, just so ridiculous, really trying to deflect the attention that we know is being focused on him. The FBI investigation, the investigation by the Pierce County Sheriff's Department into both his activities and the activities of his spouse, Kai. So one of the things I found interesting this week as we keep digging is that there is so much information out there, so many screen grabs of Onision on Discord, on Twitter, on various social media platforms, including Reddit, that people have actually constructed forums, blogs, in which they catalog this information, weigh in on it, and sort of get together in this group speak to talk about Onision. And our first guest tonight is one young person who has put such a blog group together. And Chase joins us now to talk about this development and what has happened.
I'm doing good.
So tell me a little bit about what you do with this. I guess you'd call it a forum or a blog, talking to and hearing from alleged victims and survivors of Onision, Greg, James, Jackson.
So there's a website called Tumblr, and there's like a whole community of blogs out there who talk about this. And there's a couple who specifically only speak about the victims. I run my blog about, talking about people like Sarah and Shiloh and Sky, but I also talk about his other crazy stuff that he does on YouTube. And I feel like since I'm not good at video editing, I figured I'd make a blog.
Well, excellent. How did you get into this? What made you decide to do this? And how did Onision first get on your radar screen?
The first time I saw Onision was on that Tosh.0 show. And then I didn't really think about him for a couple years after that. But somebody had brought to my attention in one of his videos, and I was like, wow, this guy is absolutely crazy. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's watching a train wreck. Like, I've never been a fan of his, but I'm just so enamored about how weird everything is surrounding him.
And how did you get started? Did you reach out to people? Did you just create this forum? Is forum the right word to use for what you put together?
So they're just blogs.
Right.
But I just was like, I'm going to make a blog. There are other people who at the time had pretty prominent blogs of their own. They most have since bowed out, and I don't blame them because this is kind of stressful at some points because of all the things that he has said.
And who posts on these blogs, and how many people, and give me a sense for the damage that he's allegedly caused for these victims / survivors?
Well, there's like, I want to say hundreds of blogs, maybe. Right now, we have a small community going on. We talk to each other and stuff. Some people have to take hiatuses because the stuff he says is really like personal to them, like eating disorders and suicide and very not good relationship-wise stuff. So a lot of people have gotten in because of that.
And how many people have you communicated with who've been victims of Onision, do you suppose?
Not too many. I know I've talked to Regina off and on, and I think I tweet at Sarah every so often, but as far as anyone else, I don't think I've ever really talked to any of the other victims.
And what does it say, though, that these people post about Onision, about the victims, about this activity? And give me a range for what people say on the blogs.
Um, it's mostly just calling out his actions, like wanting to bring attention to everything and um, trying to get like some of his fans to understand that, like, hey, this is real world consequences. The things he says is not appropriate. You know, we just want to not bully you into seeing what is going on, but just to be aware. Um, and there have been plenty of fans who have said, "No, I'm done with him," because a lot of the people I've talked to, like who are anti-Onision people, they were fans, and they're like, my eyes opened because I realized how toxic and destructive what he says is.
What would you say in terms of the range of impact? Because you've got people, and you mentioned Sarah and Shiloh and some of the others who've had direct contact with both Onision and Kai, but you've got this whole category of collateral damage here. People, young women who communicated with either Kai or Onision, who watched those videos, who have said publicly that it impacted the way they viewed relationships, inappropriate relationships, being okay. Do you see a lot of that?
Sometimes, yeah. Like I've been in a relationship where not grooming, but my ex had the same personality and stuff like that. So that's what also intrigued me about, like, how could people understand the severity of being in an abusive relationship, like how Greg and Kai are absolutely abusive to basically everyone in their life.
And do you get people who actually try to defend Onision and Kai?
I've had a few. I know there are some people who have more attacks, I want to say, than I have, threatening, hey, you're going to die, or, some other not so pleasant things. So it's a mixed bag. Some of them are like, oh, he's not that bad, but some of them are very bad.
Did you ever, when you started this, think that it would be as big a deal as it's turned out to be, that this would be getting such attention?
No, honestly, I just was doing it as a hobby while at that point I was job hunting. I think some of his fans are starting to like come around. So like these blogs that catalog all his deleted tweets, some people will mirror his videos, and spreading that around and like, I guess pointing out what's wrong with them helps with some of his fans. So they're like, oh wait, he did that to those girls. No, I don't want to be a fan of his anymore.
What do you think you've accomplished with these blogs, Chase?
Oh boy. Just a lot of awareness. I mean, like, there's a lot of like stuff that isn't talked about a lot on some of the people who do videos. So we have the text and screen caps and stuff like that on the variety of blogs that there are out there on Tumblr. So I think, having hard proof of, whatever he's done, whatever he said, helps out a lot.
So it seems like you're cataloging what could potentially be some damaging evidence against Onision in this.
More or less, yeah. Like there are screen caps of his, even his Discord servers, because usually it's a pay to get in,
right,
his Discord servers. So people have been cataloging what he's been saying in there too.
What's the most alarming thing you've seen going through all this? You must have seen an eyeful. Give me a sense of what you've seen.
That's a lot to cover. But honestly, just the fact that he treats everyone in his life like garbage and then says he doesn't do anything wrong, like abusing all his friends and especially abusing all of his exes. And just the way he treats Kai too, which, Kai's not innocent either, but just the nitpicking and the, verbal attacks against everyone else who isn't him.
Did you ever think that you would be exposed to this kind of material that somebody, a YouTuber, would put out there? Some of it's shocking.
Yeah, some of it's just, there have been times where, like, I don't watch a lot of his videos anymore, but there have been times in the past where I'm just like, I have to stop watching this, or else, like, I'm going to throw my computer out the window, because it's just so gross and vile.
How many people have gone on the blogs that you run on Tumblr, do you suppose?
Hundreds of thousands at least.
Hundreds of thousands of people have reacted to this.
Yeah.
And give me a sense how many were negative on Onision and how many were defending Onision, if you can.
More often than not, it's usually people who don't like Greg. Some people come and defend him, but I just don't really engage with his fans too much anymore, because if they're just going to blindly defend him, I don't feel the need.
What do you hope this accomplishes?
That either Greg or Kai or both go to jail for just everything they've done.
Did you ever think you'd be a crusader like this?
No. I mean, at the beginning, absolutely not. I was just, again, doing it as a hobby.
Now, you said you were in an abusive relationship yourself, and that was part of what motivated you here. Tell me about that.
So it wasn't, like, physically abusive, but it was a lot of, like, negging and, like, oh, well, I'm the best you're going to get, is the sort of things that he would say. And that's along the lines of the same things that Greg has said. And I'm just like, I see the parallels between my first ex and Greg. And I'm just like, I can't let people get sucked into this. And unfortunately, he still has fans. So
how do you see this playing out? How long does he continue to get away from it? And do you think at some level it crosses over, and by exposing this, are we feeding into his ego and his hubris and his narcissistic personality that obviously drive him, besides trying to get views and make money from this?
Well, I do know that his neighbors don't like him, but I feel like there's only so much he'll get away with before he gets enough complaints against him, both online and offline, that he'll just quit the internet or get locked up.
You say his neighbors don't like him. Have the neighbors commented on the blogs?
I've seen screen caps around. Like there was a post on Reddit where one of his neighbors commented they don't like him at all. So I assume it's the same with all the other neighbors, that he causes such a disruption to the neighborhood, and people go see him to, I guess, mess with him.
As you probably know, besides the police investigation into allegations of grooming, enticement, sexual exploitation, online and in person, the Pierce County Sheriff's Department has investigated an incident where Greg and Kai's then 2-year-old daughter fell from a second-story window, landing in the driveway. Have you gotten any comment on that incident on the blogs?
A lot of people think that they need to be more attentive parents at the very least, because there's no way that should have happened if they were babysitting the kids like they should have.
Well, parenting. We're not even talking about babysitting. We're talking about parenting.
Yeah. But yeah, if they were half the parents that they say they are, that would have never happened.
What offends you most about what you see Greg, James, and Kai doing?
That's a good question. Just the
probably
fact that,
100-way tie for first, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, there's like 100 things going through my head right now. But just how smug the two of them are about, like, oh well, nothing can touch me, no one can put me away, I'm just gonna be on YouTube forever. And that's especially on the on Greg's end. Like, he just thinks that he can't get away, or he can get away with basically murder, and no one will touch him.
How many other people like you, Chase, are out there trying to do the same thing and expose this activity on a grassroots level, using blogs and forums and posts and, redistribution of screen caps and things that have shown up on Discord and Twitter and other areas, Reddit?
I'd say thousands, probably, because
thousands of people like you are doing this.
Yeah, between people on Discord, people on Reddit, people on the various blogging forums, there's some Facebook groups. It's all over. People are just not happy with the way, YouTube is handling Greg and Kai, and just everywhere else. Instagram, I'm pretty sure there are people there who have a little community.
What do you hope this achieves, Chase, at the end of the day? I mean, long term, do you plan on staying with this?
For as long as it takes, honestly. I mean, I'm more involved, so now it's kind of like, I don't want to say a part of me, but I've just been so invested in this since 2013. So,
what do you hope to accomplish at the end of the day?
Just awareness and to see him go to jail, honestly, both of them. But if at least one of them goes to jail, I'll be happy.
All right. Well, keep up the good work, Chase. I appreciate you being on the show with us.
I appreciate you having me on.
All right, Chase. Take care now.
You too.
Bye now.
Bye.
Our next guest tonight, Daniel Sulzbach. You know him as Repzion. He's been on the show before to talk about the YouTube Psycho Brad in Washington State. He, too, has been targeted by Onision and joins us now. Daniel, thanks for being with us. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. A lot has happened since we last spoke. You were the target of a personal protection order / lawsuit by the YouTube Psycho Brad in Washington State. What was it like for you when you first realized that you had been targeted by him in this way?
I was surprised, honestly, mainly because he had been threatening to do something legally towards me for years, literal year, since 2011. We had email exchanges of him saying he's going to take me to court. He contacted my personal YouTube network saying if they don't drop me within 72 hours, he's going to sue the network, which is a multi-billion-dollar company. So I don't know. It came as a surprise. I was shocked. I thought when I got a phone call from the sheriff's department, I thought it was oh my goodness, all that illegally downloaded music that I downloaded when I was 12 or 13 on LimeWire.
Catching up with you,
yeah,
right?
They're catching up to me because my dad always told me don't steal digital stuff.
Right. There's a fingerprint.
Yeah. So I was they caught me, but no, it was just to serve me paperwork. And I asked the officer serving me, he's like, this doesn't make any sense. There's no information other than cyber stalking. He's he was very confused.
Yeah,
he was
I was confused too.
It was definitely strange.
It's interesting. I can see why he would target me just because this channel has, built a pretty big audience and a lot of people who want to see Onision brought to justice, Greggy James, whatever he goes by today. But why target you just because you've been a thorn in him? And you're not the only guy out there who's been talking about Onision.
I think it's because, and I'm really not trying to toot my own horn here, but right. There's been a couple channels. I think Stevie Wolf's covered Greg far longer than I have, but I started in 2011. And I think it's just because, I don't know, my videos got a lot more attention and they did really well performance wise, view wise. They got a lot of people watching. As of now, almost every Onision video I have has roughly almost 500,000 views. Some of them are up to 1 million views. And I think it's because of that massive people watching my Onision content. Well, let's be honest. Any Onision content you make is going to get a lot of views. Anybody who covers it's easy views, but I think it's because I was in Washington State. It just makes it far easier for him to actually do something compared to other YouTubers who are across the country or across, in different state lines. And
did you see it as ironic that here's a guy who's accused of harassing, grooming, really targeting alleged victims, these vulnerable young women online, you could argue that it's the rest of the world who needs a personal protection order from
No,
Onision,
absolutely.
not the
Yeah,
other way
absolutely.
around.
His victims, yeah, they need a protection order from him. So yeah, I agree. It's very ironic. But what can you do? He is ironic. His whole persona is ironic. If it's his character is weird, if it's even really him, I don't know.
You know, since we last spoke, we've confirmed that there is an investigation by the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. They've publicly stated so.
He contacted them. Did you know that?
Yes. He complained that Ed Troyer, who is the spokesperson for the Pierce County Sheriff's Department, actually came on this show to talk about it. I mean, who doesn't? That brings up a good point. Besides the fact that we now know there's a Sheriff's Department investigation, there's an FBI investigation. I've spoken to the FBI. They have the laptop of Sarah. They have the 2 cell phones of Sarah. We know what Sarah has told us is on that digital material. The FBI doesn't take these items and doesn't do what's called a cart examination unless they're pretty sure they know what's there and they're committed to this investigation, no matter what Onision says. Did you ever think we'd get to this point?
No, I didn't. Not at all. I was surprised to even hear that there was an FBI investigation ongoing at all. I definitely believe there is because, I don't know, I think if anybody is going to have issues with like jail time or anything, I think it would be more with Kai than Greg, sad to say, but I think that's the reality.
When it comes to the actual digital transmission of sexually explicit material,
so, yeah.
I think you're right. I think Kai is more on the hook than Onision is. But
because the thing about Greg is you got to understand is he borders the line all the time of like what's barely legal and what's like not illegal, like right on the edge. Like he goes out of his way to intentionally go to a particular state where he can be associated with somebody who is underage, a minor, and do things that in another state in Washington state wouldn't be allowed. Like he's knowingly seeks out to get away and get past legalities in order for it to be technically legal.
Have you seen his most recent videos?
I've skimmed some of them. Like I guess he's now doing what, like he has like this CGI character, animated character. Yeah. Very bizarre, weird. I really haven't watched them just because he's just blabbering nonsense, and he's not funny. So I know he posted a couple videos the last few days, proof videos showing texts and stuff, which I don't know if they're really real or not. I don't know. That needs to be verified, I guess. But I know he made a video about Sarah and basically made a statement saying that like, well, that video where she had like a breakdown and was like clearly distressed and saying that there was no relationship that was ongoing with them. He was like pointing out like her hair color, right? Her hair length and hair color. But the reality is she was using filters. Like you can definitely tell there's a filter on there which changes your hair color and changes, the overall color of an image. And I don't know, it's very strange. She's trying to discredit Sarah. Supposedly he's going on an interview with Keemstar on March 9th. All right, supposedly it's already been done. So that will be very interesting to see. I'm very curious on how that's going to play out. If anything, I think it's going to incriminate himself more just because of how he deals with people.
Well, he blames everybody but himself and takes no responsibility. I mean, he always targets me for whatever he comes up with, and says that I'm after him for no good reason or whatever nonsense he spews. He goes after Sarah, and then he says that he can't show the timestamps or the dates on these texts, and then
it would show a phone number, but that's not true at all.
That's BS, isn't it?
I know that's a cop out.
And then I spoke to Sarah the other day, who struck back at him and really, I think, has the upper hand at this point on a number of different levels because, she called him out on this nonsense and basically, and I believe her story, she made those statements somewhat under duress because she was so worried about Kai freaking out, and she legitimately had emotional feelings towards Kai and at one point Greggy James, And so you take this young woman who is vulnerable and has feelings and, has been essentially taken in as a guardian by these people.
Her whole childhood, mind you.
I mean, I think
that's what a lot of people don't understand about the situation is you have somebody who's started at 14 or 13 and then got into that relationship, and like the whole that adolescent stage of your life is one of the most crucial for your development and the things that you go through in your worldview. Is it changes your entire essence as a person, is like that change. I went through it because I converted out of religion at that time. So I know it's different, but like, you know, not having your actual parents around to support you or be around you, and you get signed off to somebody else who's taking advantage of that, which I believe did happen. And you're not going to convince me otherwise.
Helter-skelter environment too. I mean, whether they had inappropriate contact with her prior to her becoming legal age or not, the grooming process was well underway at a very early age.
Well, there's text messages of Kai and Onision discussing her virginity. Like, that's very clear cut. That's just weird to be talking about somebody who you have guardianship over. That's not normal.
And people lose sight of that, I think, in the digital community here discussing this. Does it surprise you, and you're more embedded in this than I am, but does it surprise you that there are so many people who will take sides, who will, you know, target either Shiloh or, in this case, Sarah, and just really say and do mean things? I mean, who cares really if Sarah goes out and says, "This is my Venmo, I need money for a new computer"?
To me, the Venmo thing is really non-issue. I think it's really non-issue, mainly because like I asked for $2,500 and the internet came back and gave me 10 times. And I really don't see somebody putting their Venmo out saying, "I need help for a laptop." Whether or not it's being used for a laptop or not, I don't really care. If she's on her own, she's working, what's wrong with asking for help? I understand the whole transparency thing, but not everybody needs to be completely transparent. There's no law that says you need to be transparent for what you use money for. That's just something that people like myself, I try to be transparent because I want people to know. But just because somebody else doesn't do that doesn't mean that they're scamming people or being fraudulent. I mean,
you're a guy who's working hard in your own, you know, workaday world, and suddenly you're hit with this legal bill that's going to be $2,500. Why would you not seek some sort of assistance from your fan base there?
Well, the thing is, I didn't want to at first, and I talk with my family, I talk to people close to me, and they're like, "You definitely should, like, just do it." And I had such an overwhelming amount of people saying, even before I made it, like they would donate. Like, it was the demand was overwhelmingly. I was like, okay, fine. I kind of caved in, and it worked in my favor because I got way more than I asked for. And I'm not going to complain about that. It just came as a massive surprise. I was shocked. I was shocked.
Yeah, I'm more in a position to deal with something like that with, you know, lawyers and associates and you know, as I did with it. But I mean, you know, how dare he, in some respects, you know, put together his crayons and his cardboard and his construction paper and configure this, you know, cockamamie legal action that dragged you into court away from your real job, costing you $2,500 to get a lawyer to fix this stuff. And if you don't go, you're in contempt of court. You had to go.
Yeah. I thought about not hiring an attorney, but I'm really glad that I did, just so he could get like piled on at how ridiculous he seemed. Because I don't know if you saw, you made a video about me and I responded to it talking about how stupid I am for hiring an attorney and how that makes me guilty because I hired an attorney. But like, that's not how that works at all. A lot of people hire attorneys for tickets all the time, even really, really small things. It's a very common thing. You want to be legally represented properly when you go, regardless of how trivial it may be.
He who represents himself is a fool for a lawyer. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I said that in one of my videos. Started off with that. It's true.
What was it like for you to see him walk into that courtroom with what appeared to be a bulletproof vest? I
tell people, I was trying not to laugh. Greg accused me of having a grin on my face. It wasn't a grin.
How could you not?
I was trying not to laugh. It was hysterical to me. It was hysterical. I couldn't believe it. A bulletproof vest, and it was on backwards too.
What do you think, knowing what you know about him and all this time you spent covering him and reporting on him and talking to people about him, what do you suppose he's doing right now in that house in Washington State? I
think that he is glued to social media, with his numerous sock accounts that he has, that I've gotten weird messages from people who they just write the same way that he does. So I think obviously I can't prove it, but there's these weird accounts all the time that just come out of the blue, recently created, that talk the same way, and clearly he monitors everything. So like clearly there was an incident the last few days with Shiloh. She recently deactivated her thing because she accused somebody falsely of something else. We're not going to get into that, but I think he witnessed that whole thing. He definitely witnessed that whole thing, which is why I think he's also going to Keemstar, because this is like a opportunity for him to jump on the fact that Shiloh may have done something wrong. And he wants to use that to push the narrative that she is crazy or, shouldn't be listened to because she did something she probably shouldn't have, He's very opportunistic is the proper word, I think.
And what do you make of all these sock puppet accounts? I've talked to people, and we're doing a massive amount of research on this, because it appears that because of when he got involved in YouTube, because of his success, because of his longstanding relationship with Google, he has toolkits and things at his disposal that most people don't have that allow him to make these sock puppets, to take advantage of these algorithms, to strike people, to prevent them from being monetized, and to get his messages out there in a very sneaky way. Do you buy into that?
I mean, I think it has to be working to some degree. I don't know if you saw, but as of like yesterday, so he made a couple of videos called like The Proof, and was like showing text messages the last few days. And as of like yesterday, he made that basically to a members only account. So basically you have to pay him $5 a month in order to watch that video. The videos that he uploaded, they weren't originally a paid access video. But as of literally, because it started bringing in views, he's like, well, the video's not monetized, obviously. So the only way for me to get money is to make it members only. And now he's charging people to look at proof, which is really odd. Because like truly, if you're really innocent and you claim that these things didn't happen, you're now charging people money in order for people to hear your side. That doesn't seem very honest to me, personally.
Why Keemstar? Why would he go to Keemstar to do this interview?
I don't know. Primarily because I know Keemstar doesn't like Greg, and Greg doesn't like Keemstar, and I know Keemstar has said a comment about Kai at one point involving intercourse that really got him really angry. It was like insulting Kai, that is. So I'm kind of shocked that it even happened. I don't know. I really don't. I can't really speak on that. I guess we're just going to have to find out when the interview hits on, I think, March 9th.
There was a video that Keemstar put out, I believe, on Twitter just yesterday, and he was watching the interview he did with Onision. And again, I find these videos just horribly hard to watch. Somebody on my team usually takes a look. I've watched some of them and bits of them. I watched the animated video where he commits suicide, which was, gory but it seems to me that this is all sort of a last-ditch effort to garner A, views and money, B, some sort of sympathy, which I don't know who would find.
Well, it's interesting because if you go to his most recent videos, he recently allowed comments again. So he's always disabled comments, so you couldn't comment on anything on his channel. And he's allowing comments again, but he's monitoring them, or his mods are, I don't know. But basically, the only comments you see on his videos now are basically positive comments saying like, oh, I love you, Greg, or you did nothing wrong type of thing. Like he's clearly censoring any sort of comment that says anything negatively about him, which is, I guess that's a step up because at least people are being able to say things, but he's also deleting comments because the video has 30,000 views and every comment's literally just praising him. So it's like, okay.
And nothing from Kai in all this.
No, not that I know of. Kai's been very, very silent in almost all of this. Like, completely secretive in a way. Like, anything Greg talks about, it's through his words. He says Kai thinks these certain things or says these certain things. But do we really know that Kai thinks those things? Do we?
Don't know.
No, we don't.
Because he has not said anything. Where do you think we go from here, Daniel?
I think it's important just to keep up to date with him. That's really all you can really do. I know he recently got his Instagram terminated, but it's back and restored. I guess he got falsely, but he got terminated and it's back. I think he's always going to be around. I really think that. I don't really think there's any way to deplatform him. And YouTube's, we've discussed it before. YouTube's not going to do anything unless he's charged with something. So he's always going to be here.
Is YouTube enabling Onision?
Oh, of course they are, without a shadow of a doubt. But
and yet they'll clip you, they'll clip me, but they'll let Onision do whatever he wants.
Yeah, it's weird because some of his videos have clearly, like, when it comes to like the whole violence section of like terms of service of YouTube and being overly violent and stuff, there's been videos where definitely should have been removed that clearly should not be allowed.
Committing suicide.
I mean, that's a pretty sensitive topic to joke about, I think. It should definitely be age restricted. If a video gets age restricted on YouTube, basically no ads can be placed on it, and it's also limited to people who are 18 plus. So nobody under the age of 18 can watch it. Granted, you can lie about your age, but I don't think that video was age restricted, honestly. I don't even understand how his videos don't get age restricted, because I've had a bunch of my videos age restricted.
Yeah. I've had mine, and all we're doing is talking about how to protect yourself from a predator.
Oh.
You know, I've had it for using that word too many times, so go figure. Anyway, we keep trying to get an interview with Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, and had some communication about a week, 10 days ago with one of her media people. And I had suggested in that communication that, you know, we had found ways to manipulate the system, the algorithms, and to, you know, use these tools provided to a person like Onision in a way that violates the term of standards. And instead of saying, okay, we'd like to talk about that, or we'd like to see what you found, the response was, well, if you see a violation, let us know, and our compliance department will take care of it. It's like, no, I want to talk about it with you. I'm happy to brief you beforehand.
Yeah, something I definitely should mention this, because I probably should. I could get in trouble, but I don't really care, from Google anyway. So I had a phone conversation with Google a couple weeks ago. So I have merchandise on my store, on like for my clothes, and it's basically me as a robot, like a karate chopping a pumpkin down the middle. And that shirt was called Onion Slayer. Onion meaning Onision. It was kind of a parody thing. I paid a couple $100 for an artist to just draw it up with some sort of like 80s horror vibe text and stuff. I really like it. But I got an email from Google saying, hey, we want to talk to you about your channel. This was about a month and a half ago. I'm like, okay. I call them up, or they call me, and I guess it was like one of those calls where there's multiple people on the line from Google themselves, like there's actual Google employees. And they're like, hey, we wanted to talk to you about some of your merchandise that's connected to your store on your YouTube channel, because my merchandise pops under my videos. And I'm like, okay, sure. What about it? They're like, we noticed that you have a merchandise store that is targeted towards Onision. And I was like, yeah, I do. It's a parody. It's a joke. Onion Boy. Like, I'm not actually referencing him by name, Onision. His name's not even on the shirt. It's my name, Repzion. So what are you saying here? They were like, well, we changed our terms of service as of January to allow only no user-on-user harassment from YouTuber to YouTuber.
So that's a problem. But when he steals,
this is the ironic thing.
An unrelated.
They're telling me that my merchandise is harassment. They literally told me that it's harassment, creator on creator harassment. I was really taken back by that.
The case, then why is it okay for Onision to take one of my interviews with somebody else unrelated to him and put his face in there saying all kinds of derogatory?
No, I agree. I agree with you. But
I mean, nobody does anything about that.
No, it's weird.
For a t-shirt, basically.
So basically, they told me that they were going to terminate my merch store unless I change they wanted me to change the design, and I said absolutely not. I said, number one, it's a pumpkin, not an onion. Okay, like, come on. And I told them, secondly, I'll change the title of the description of the merch, so it won't be Onion Slayer. I changed it to Vegetable Slayer. Literally, I changed the title from Vegetable Slayer and took onion out, and they're like, okay, that's all right. Jeez. We won't terminate your merch store. And that was literally the conversation. That was it. I was shocked.
That's amazing. Mind-boggling. Yet another question for YouTube and all this. Daniel, I appreciate you being with us. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
I have one specifically. I think you, Chris, should explore another person here on, or he's not necessarily a YouTuber, but it goes by the name of Davi Vanity.
I've heard of this. Blood on the Dance
he's
Floor.
a musician who's done a lot of stuff with Blood on the Dance Floor. It's a big band, and there's a lot of really like predatory, like there's legal stuff that's already he's been involved with, and like victims, all tons of so as of right now, 21 people, almost like I think 15 of them all underage that he's been involved with doing horrible things with. And I think, like, I know you're focusing on Onision, but I think stemming out and tackling somebody else like Davi Vanity would be fantastic.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, Daniel. In fact, Davi Vanity is on our radar here at Have a Seat with Chris Hansen, and I promise you I'll take a really good, hard look at it, and we'll be tackling that topic as we move forward in all these investigations. But again, I appreciate you being on the show. Good luck with everything. I'm glad you got through the legal nonsense that occurred several weeks ago, and
it paid off.
Yeah, that paid off. Good for you. Good for you. All right, young man. Thank you for being on the show. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Peace.
Well, another aggressive week in the world of investigating Onision. Much more to come. It's interesting to note that it takes the FBI about 30 days to do a thorough examination of cell phones or laptops like the ones that Sarah has turned over for investigation in this case. We're going to be coming up on that in the next week or so. So by next week, we should have some developments in the investigation. Until then, we will continue to support the survivors in this case and seek justice for them as well. Have a great week ahead. I'm Chris Hansen. Thanks for having a seat with me. We'll see you next Wednesday and probably before then here on YouTube. Take care.